practitioner from Bridging Health Clinic. Today, I'm going to show you how to make some kombucha. So, first thing you need is a SCOBY, which are in here. This is my SCOBY hotel, where the SCOBYs live, basically. And so SCOBY is just a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And the way they like to live is in sweet tea, just as a lot of us humans do. So, the first thing you have to do is make a nice strong brew of tea. You can use a lot of different teas and even different herbs and stuff. You can experiment. But for now, the basic version, we made a black tea. So this is 1 quart or 4 cups. So for every quart, I used 2 tablespoons of black tea, and all I did was steep it. So I brought the water to a boil, and I poured it in over the dry leaves, and I let it sit for about 15 minutes. And I've already strained off the leftover tea leaves. And the next thing you need to do is add 1 cup of sugar to this quart of tea. Typically right when it's still hot after you strain off those leaves, so the sugar can kind of blend into that tea very well. And the reason I'm using a cup is because I'm going to be making a gallon jug of kombucha. So for every gallon jug of kombucha, you use about a cup of sugar, and we're going to have this same amount of tea. So we've got that mixed in. We'll pour it into the jar here. And I tend to I throw in a little bit of cinnamon and some just roughly chopped up ginger, because that kind of warms up the kombucha, and it also makes it a really good digestive, because kombucha really is a condiment. It's not something that you need to drink a cup of or anything like that. It's more like 2 to 4 ounces. However, it is advertised as a larger drink of a beverage. So we got those in there. Now we just have to add the rest of the water. So you do want to leave about a cup or 2 of space, because there's an important step that you have to do before you finish this, and I'll explain that here in just a second. Let me pour. And it is important to use filtered water, or if you have a good spring water or well water. You don't want chlorinated water when you're doing fermented products. So now that we have everything in there, it is a good idea to make sure it's not hot, because if you're putting something that's alive in something really cold or really hot, it's not really going to like that environment. That feels pretty good. So with clean hands, you can reach in here, and we're actually going to grab this top SCOBY, and we're going to set it in there. So that important step I was talking about is basically inoculating this top 2 cups that we left. And the way to do that is this juice in here is pretty low. It's pretty acidic. It's low in pH. So it's going to help inoculate and start this fermentation process. And you need about a cup, but if you can spare 2 cups, you can always put an extra 1 in there. Now, if you're just starting out and you have a brand new SCOBY, you may not have starter liquid, because you might not have a hotel that you've been storing your SCOBYs in. You can buy starter liquid, or when you get your first SCOBY, you can make a nice sweet tea for it and make a hotel for it, and just let it sit for a month or 2, and that'll give you a really nice strong starter liquid. And I'll do a video later showing you how to take care of your SCOBYs, and you'll be set for life. So that's about it for the first step of doing your kombucha. So the next thing we need to do is just put a a lid on there that can breathe. I think that this is have a coffee filter, and then a rubber band. And you do want to store these out of direct sunlight, so that I got a spot in the closet. And it typically does do better if you get it in a spot where it's a little warmer, 70 degrees, 75 degrees. And we're going to let this start to ferment. On every kombucha ferment you do, there's always going to be a new SCOBY that forms on top. But I'm going to check this in about 3 to 5 days, and I'm going to taste it. And if it's to my liking, I'll probably I'll take the SCOBY out, and then I'll put a flavoring in like fruit or herbs. But I'll show you that step next here in about 3 to 5 days. So I'll see you soon. All right, welcome back. It has been about 4 days of fermenting for this batch of kombucha, which was in the cupboard out of the sunlight. And if you look close enough, there's a little baby SCOBY that formed on top here, which is a good sign. That means it's working. And it also, just like the other ferments, it smells good, kind of a sharp, sour, sweet smell to it. So I've already tasted it, but I got a little straw out and dipped it in there and took a little taste. It's just starting to get a little sour, and so I tend to like my kombucha a little on just the sweet side, because the further you let it ferment, the sourer it's going to get. So I want to flavor this kombucha now, because when we flavor it, you're only going to have that flavoring in there for about a day or two. So what we have to do to flavor it is, we got our SCOBY Hotel over here. We're just going to take these, we're going to put this little baby SCOBY over in there, and then that big one that we put in initially over here in our hotel. Oh, and there's a piece of ginger. We'll put that back in there. So, let me grab that. Once you have the SCOBYs out, you can put in the flavoring, and you can go crazy with flavoring. You can use anything and everything you can imagine: herbs, fruit. And today we had some ripe peaches on our counter, so I have about a cup of peeled peaches that we'll put in there. And then I also found a vanilla bean that I simply split in half, and we'll throw that in there. And that's it. You put your cover back on. You don't need to stir it or anything. And I'll put this back in the cupboard, and you can let it sit there for a day or two typically to get that flavoring. And when that's done, you just bring it back out and you strain off all the stuff that's in here, and you'll be left with a nice kombucha. So it's been 1 day of fermenting with the flavor in it, and we went ahead and strained off all those all the peaches and the other ingredients we had in there, and we're left with about a gallon of kombucha. So if you wanted to have a more carbonated kombucha, you could put the cap on this and put it back in the cupboard for another day or two. However, I don't really need to have a fizzy drink, and it will get a little more sour if it continues to ferment. So I'm actually, you store this when you're done. You're going to store it in the refrigerator, and this will keep for quite some time, but do remember it doesn't necessarily stop the fermentation when it's in the refrigerator. It slows it down. So you could see another little SCOBY form on top, and as time goes by, it may get a little more sour, but hopefully you'll be finished with it and making new batches before it goes sour. Another thing to remember is that you don't have to drink a lot of it. It is more of a condiment. And so you can do anywhere from 4 to 8 ounces, and you can use it as a digestive after meals. So hopefully this video sparks your interest in the art of making kombucha, and I would encourage you to get a book and enjoy making your kombucha and sharing it with your friends and family. See you next time. Bye.